Hello to everybody out there in our Montasy Comics Extended Universe. I am still Adam, and this is, what's your name?
Jimmy? Sorry, I was looking down earlier. I was actually scratching my leg. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
They don't know what Marvels lie below this table.
Yeah, that's true.
So we are here today to talk about, what are we here to talk about today?
I mean, this is one question a lot of people ask us, right? It's like, hey, I want to sell a collection. What should I do? Or I want to sell a card. What are some of the things we do? So what do you usually answer?
If someone says, I want to sell my cards, what do I do? I mean, the first thing I tell them is, bring them in, we'll take a look at them. I say cards, this could be comic books, this could be any number of collectible items. We are just one outlet through which people can sell things. You have on the level beyond that, people might look at something where they say, okay, I have something that's of particularly high value. I want to put this into the marketplace. I want to list this on a website like eBay. I mean, that is a platform that I think is very accessible. It's very easy to access if you've ever been on eBay. You have literally hundreds of people, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who are consistently selling things just like these. Maybe not these exact cards, maybe not something that is this unique, but it's a marketplace that I think is going to be the first place that a lot of folks look, just in terms of the number of eyes that are going to be on something.
Absolutely. I mean, that's actually a very general area, right? I mean, yes, are there specific areas that we'll take a slightly deeper dive in later on, or we'll touch upon? But Adam's absolutely right. I mean, on eBay, it's like, I have this stuff in my closet. How much is it going to be? Well, let me put it on the site, let people bid on it, or let people buy it, and then from there, they could decide. But selling on eBay, there's a couple sort of like things you have to consider. Yeah. One of them is fees. Right? A lot of people go, well, I sell this, I'll be able to sell this at $100, $1,000, $2,000. That is not necessarily the actual cash that's gonna get into your hands, right? There are eBay fees, there's transaction fees and all and so forth that represents a small chunk of change. Shipping fees. And then on top of that, what are some of the other considerations that you would think of selling on eBay or selling on an online platform?
Well, I mean, when you're looking at something that is distinguishing an online platform is something where you're selling directly to a person who is buying this to, not necessarily where you're selling to a reseller. On something like eBay, first off, the benefit, you have a million eyes looking in one place. That's great. You're also going to have pricing that is very competitive in the sense that on eBay, you might have many people listing the same card or equivalent cards or similar cards. So if you compare that to what, let's say, other venues that we might talk about at a later point, there is definitely, if you're going to be one person out of 10 people, 20 people selling the same thing, even if a lot of people are looking for that, they're not necessarily going to be buying your card. So you might put something up, it might sit for a very long time before the others have sold, maybe the price has fluctuated, and maybe the stars align and someone decides, okay, this is what I'm going to be buying today from this person.
Yeah, like your card or your item is the first item that they see, they go, oh, okay, I'll buy it. But when it's a lot of different things, end up being a lot of price competition, right?
And I think something else that comes into play on eBay that's important to consider is it's easier to sell things on eBay the more time you spend selling on eBay and the more things you list over time. One thing when people are buying things on eBay that they look for is the track record that sellers have, because there's, I don't want to call it mistrust, but people want to be cautious. They want to buy from someone who's established, who's reputable. So if someone has one item listed on eBay and that's the only thing they've ever listed and they have no confirmed transactions, that might be perceived as a bit more risky. So people might be more hesitant to purchase something in that case, or if that's how you're listing something, you might need to price something a little bit lower in order to make up for that. Also,
go ahead.
Just looking at, if you have a lot of things that you're interested in selling, the amount that you're able to list as a new seller on eBay is limited. That there are restrictions based on how much you've listed, how many transactions you've had, how many sales you've had, how much you could put up, let's say, on any given one time. So if you have 1,000 cards and you want to sell all of them on eBay and you go, I'm going to sign up for an account today, you're not going to be able to just list all of them.
From this standpoint, I guess those are the consideration that any seller would need to have. Like whether you're selling a single card and all that and so forth. For a single card, you may just say, hey, I'll trade it to my friend. I'll go to a local store, or I go to a local show, right, to do that.
When you say local show, you mean like a convention, or what type of show?
I mean, there are multiple conventions, right? There is, if you're talking about comics, there's Comic Cons, or there are local cons in a hotel that you could bring comics to. Similarly, there are sports cards. There are local shows. There are a little bit more regional shows, bigger shows, et cetera, and national shows. That's in the similar level of a Comic Con that you can bring stuff to. You could go to the vendors and you could sell. You could set up a shop, set up a table there, but I guess a lot of times depending on the cost of the table versus the items that you're looking to sell. So that's sort of like another venue, and that's a venue where you can kind of go, hey, I enjoy the transaction of sitting behind the table like we are, and then somebody else in front of us going, hey, I want to sell this, I want to buy this, and you can have that type of transaction.
And something similar, not exactly the same as that kind of a show that's meant just for buying and selling, but something that's similar when it comes to the trading card game cards.
Yep.
Like for Magic the Gathering and things like that, is sometimes when they have large events, like very large tournaments, like a regional tournament or a tournament that brings in a very large number of people, the sort of thing that instead of being done at your local store, it might be done at your local convention center.
Yep.
Those events will usually have vendors. They'll have people who come specifically to buy and sell cards. So for Cards for the Trading Card Games, often that is a prime place to buy and sell, specifically to sell, because if there's a tournament, if you have thousands of people who are in one place who are all looking for the best cards, and you have those cards, vendors might be very eager to purchase those at a certain point because they know, there's a lot of people looking for them.
No, definitely. I mean, you see that with Pokemon, you see that with Yu-Gi-Oh, you see that with Magic. It's different levels, right? In your local shop, when there are events and all that and so forth, guys trade with each other, cards, and sometimes they make I'll trade for you based on the value that they see on online. But then when you started getting into the more competitive scenes, competitive events and all that and so forth, you definitely see that saying, oh, this card, everybody wants to use it in their deck, they're going to buy it, and after they buy it and after they play, they'll sell it too. We've definitely seen that as well.
No, that's very true. Or alternately, you might have something where at an event, this is something that has happened to me, where it's you play in a tournament, you play in a side event at one of these big things, and it's like in a hotel, you have hundreds of people. You play, you might not win, but you might get your prizes. You get a couple of packs of cards, you open your packs, it's like, oh wow, I got this really good card. Can you buy it from me? It's a sort of situation where, sometimes you even cards that you picked up that day, you might be getting rid of at the same time.
Absolutely. And short of these other areas, are there any other avenues that they can sell their cards?
To sell their cards, something else to consider. I think if we're talking about incredibly high-end things, if you're talking about something that, when we're talking about, many, many figures above what you're going to see day to day at your normal local store, in that case, I know you have third parties who specialize in appraising and selling specifically very high-end cards, comics, or collectibles in a very specific field.
True. What has been happening is, from a high-end perspective, it's almost like you have more places, auction house, as Adam referred to, such as Heritage Auction, Golden Auction. For comics, there's Comic Link. There are a lot of different sort of auction houses that now are taking a lot of the collectibles, high-end collectibles. But for trading card games, I think there's also actually a lot of things that's been doing, right? You could sell it to stores, right? But you could also, a lot of shops, online shops, as well as local shops, they may put what's called their buy list online. So when that happens, what would we typically do? Like, let's say if you want to sell something and you say, oh, my local shop pays too low and I want to sell it to, I don't want to spend so much time on eBay trying to list items, but I want to hopefully know what price people are paying and I'm comfortable selling. What they often do is they'll go online to whether it's different online reputable stores and all that and so forth. They have what's called a buy list, and then you look at the cards that you have and then you send it to them. Cross your fingers. Hope that its condition is as what you thought it is, and then from there they'll give you the price or the total value of your collection or total value of your cards, and then either it will be in credit form or they'll send you a check or cash. So there are a lot of different areas that you can sell your collections, your items, and absolutely you could always bring it to the shop. Right, we do look at it, but what we would often say is that there are different areas that you could sell that may be higher or maybe lower than what we're willing to pay based on popularity of a particular item. But with technology and with everything, there's definitely more and more areas that you could go to.
Well, definitely. I think that for every type of venue that you might sell cards through, there's always going to be a trade-off. I think part of that is money. It's how much are you going to be getting for those cards. Part of that is also convenience, is a big question. So are you going to have to, let's say, put in more legwork to get more money that appeals to you. If that's something where you want to put in the hours and build up, using the eBay marketplace, and you're like okay with the fees and also the just the time in sorting out your collection, finding the right things to list, really navigating that space and getting comfortable with that and putting time into that, there is a monetary return there. But if that's something that is not worth that money, or if that's too great a cost, then you might prefer to just say, okay, I'll take a little bit less, but it's going to be one and done. I'm going to unload these cards, and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, and it's definitely that balance. I mean, it's even as simple as what we've told somebody, some folks who comes in with a stack of cards, right, or a binder. Make sure to do a little bit of sort of homework, because there are cards that are maybe super popular, and then there may be cards that are not as popular. And a lot of times, the amount of time that somebody that's going to look into it would help you maximize the dollar that you'll get, right? If you have some cards that you already know is a $10 or $20 or $15 cards, you already know how much you want, and therefore that'll speed up the process. Speed up the negotiation process. You know what you're comfortable with, and then from that point on, you've already done a level of homework that allows you to go, okay, this is how much I want, and we're about in the same ballpark, and then we could just wrap that up. And you'll be surprised, oftentimes, whether it's a store, whether it's a dealer behind the table, they may be much quicker to pay it or pay a higher price than they normally would, because, they see some of the cards that you have and you already know the price that you're looking for, and it's a quick meeting of the minds from that standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we were talking about with, okay, if you're listing things, you're putting more legwork in, putting more time, putting more energy into that. I mean, that goes for people who you're going to be selling to as well, right? They're also putting in a lot of time and a lot of work into going through things and evaluating things and pricing things. So the easier you make that, the more people might be willing to pay for that. I've seen more with comics than with cards, but I have seen folks coming into the store. Maybe it's they have comics that they got from someone else, but they don't really know much about them, or they're just kind of curious and want to know what's up. If people bring things in just a big garbage bag, and everything's completely unsorted and completely just a big pile of random things and they don't even know what's in it, there's going to be so much more work and so much more time and so much more attention that goes into that, that we might say in some cases, taking a quick glance, it doesn't look like this would be worth it for us.
Yeah, and we might miss something, right? And we might miss something, and as a result give either the lower value, or sometimes we may have a higher value because the things that's there. So a lot of times people would just sort of be a little more careful when it's a whole bunch of things.
And that's not to say that it's your job to have like a price list for every single thing that you own down to the last decimal point. I think what you said is a meeting of the minds is really what it comes down to. I think the more that you're able to operate with the same things in mind, and it's not one party just saying, well, I'm just going to put it in your hands and let go. I think the easier it is to resolve those kinds of transactions, whether you're a buyer or a seller.
Yep, and I think at the end of the day, it's really, your comfort level, right? It's you going, hey, I have this, I have an understanding what the value is about, I know I don't want to spend this amount of time, therefore this is approximately the dollar, and then we're done, And with that, I hope that's helpful for everyone when it comes to how they're going to start or begin to sell their collection or a few of their cards, as well as which avenue they choose to sell them.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to just the concept of selling or the idea of selling, I think the way that I would wrap it up is just to always keep in mind, for most people who are going to be selling, for most people out there who are looking at this, it's a hobby, right? It's this entire business of collectibles is something that we do for fun.
Not for some people, but go ahead.
Well, I would say in many cases, like for example, just speaking personally, I work at a store that deals in this, and we have a certain approach that we take to things, and we are very professional about that. In my day-to-day personal life, when I am buying and collecting and perhaps selling cards, I really take a very different approach, because I think if I am selling something, it's because, I bought this, I wanted to have it, maybe I randomly got something I wasn't expecting, maybe I lucked out, maybe I was playing with these cards and I don't need them anymore. My approach there is I'm not going to lose sleep over what I sell. I am just going to say, okay, as long as it's convenient to me, if I get back some percentage of what I put in, at the end of the day, I'm happy, because that's just part of the fun of it.
Yep.
If I were, and I know everybody's different, for some people the selling is half the fun, and that's something that we definitely encourage. But at the same time, if it's getting to the point where it seems overwhelming, if it seems stressful, it's meant to be fun. And I think at that point, determining what your comfort level is and pursuing with that is going to give you the best experience, not just in terms of money, but in terms of your interaction with the hobby overall.
Yeah, along with everybody else. Yeah. Oh, and that's it for today. We'll see you again.